What's going on, class? Sergio Silva Jr. here doing week three's discussion board. I am choosing option one for this week, and I'm mostly utilizing Danica Hayes' textbook, our text for the class, initial assessment in counseling. There are going to be maybe one or two other references that I put, and that's just references that I use for a little more clarification, looking at different mental statuses exams, and just kind of comparing one to the other to get a general idea of what some different ones look like. I also pulled a couple from our class, so I'm really utilizing just a little bit of all of it. So I'll be referencing everything that I feel relevant. So I'll be talking about all the different categories that I've noticed are kind of most consistent from one exam to the next. It seems to be about 6 to 8 different categories depending on the exam. They just kind of separate them a little bit differently one exam to the other. But they're mostly appearance, attitude, and activity. Behavior could be in this category. I've seen behavior be kind of lumped into this category. Mood and affect is another one. Speech and language. There's thought process, thought content, perception, cognition. There's insight and judgment that I've also seen split up into two different sections. But so let's go ahead and talk about the first one, appearance, attitude, activity. And so my understanding here is that these aren't really questions that you'll be asking the client. They won't really be filling this out. This is really purely observational. It is my understanding of how these mental status exams work. And you kind of pour over them and you utilize your own clinical judgment, seeing if there is congruency with what you would expect. So you do have to put a little bit of bias and assumptions here, but what you would expect for a developmental age or or a particular emotional situation. We'll get into a little more of the details there, but congruency is what really comes out to me the most as the most important pillar really before you utilize your clinical judgment. Is there congruency from X to Y? So appearance, attitude, and activity. This can mean do they look neat? Do they look groomed? Do they look disheveled? Is their clothing inappropriate to the weather? Are they, is their attitude congruent with what they're talking about? There's mood and affect. Is their mood congruent with what they're talking about? Are they talking about this horrible thing that they just witnessed on the way there and they're laughing about it? Are they talking about death in the family with laughter when there was no spite or anything involved? Is once again, is there congruency between a mood and the content and the narrative being talked about? There's also speech and language. Is the speech kind of really slow and dull? Is it so fast that you can't really keep up? Is it extremely loud? Is it inappropriately loud? Is it super quiet? All of these would give clinical insight to something. Would be unfair and unrealistic to put a finger on exactly what, but yeah. So thought process, thought content, perception. I came across some of these checkboxes on some mental status exams and not really on others, but some did include things like hallucinations, auditory, visual hallucinations. Our orientation is one that I saw on almost every. Are they oriented to time, to place, to their person? Are they connected to the here and now? Essentially, is my understanding of it. And what's their attention like as well? Is it short term? Is it distracted? Are they kind of looking all over the place? Can they follow you with what you're saying and what you're asking? Um, Cognition, I've also seen kind of lumped up into some of these, like orientation. Memory is a big one. Attention, I've seen lumped into cognition as well. So there is also insight and judgment, and I've seen mostly kind of like a good, poor, great, congruent. I've seen a lot of these for insight and judgment, and I think this is really contextual, really from situation to situation, case to case, and once again, kind of utilizing that clinical judgment there. Um, so yeah, that is about it. Those are all of the main 6 categories, at least, that Danica Hayes put in her text. All right, I hope you enjoyed.